So today I will present Germany, its culture and research. I will start with giving you some basic facts about Germany, then conclude to a little bit about studying in Germany and what it's like, and then I will present parts of my bachelor thesis. So let's start. So first, some general facts about Germany. Germany is located in Central Europe. Some countries surrounding Germany are Denmark, Poland, Austria, France, and Switzerland. Its capital is Berlin, and right now Germany has a population of around 83 million people. Its currency is the euro, as in most European countries that are part of the European Union. Our government is a federal parliamentary republic, and our economy is actually the largest in Europe and the third largest in the world behind China and the United States. One fun fact about Germany is Germany has over 20,000 castles and also the oldest brewery in the world, Weinstefan, around 1,000 years old. Of course, I cannot talk about the whole German history, but I want to pick out one very important part of German history, and that is its division and reunification. So as you might know, after World War II, Germany was split up into two different parts. The western parts, which was a capitalist democracy governed by France, the United States, and Great Britain. And then the eastern part of Germany, which was governed by the Soviet Union, was a communist regime. And also, here you can see this is our now capital, Berlin. Berlin was also split up into these two different parts. And famously, the Berlin Wall was built to prevent citizens from traveling from East to West Germany. So actually, a lot of people tried to flee from Eastern Germany into Western Germany, and people were actually shot. So one very important date in our German history is the fall of the Berlin Wall in November 9th, 1989. And this also symbolizes the collapse of the Soviet Union. And around 1 year later, October 3rd, 1990, Germany was reunited once again. This is now celebrated as a national holiday called Tag der Deutschen Einheit in German, or German Unity Day. And this was very important for the German identity, but it also brought some economic challenges. So mainly the eastern parts of Germany still lag behind economically, but we are trying our best to equalize Germany. Also, what Germany is very well known for, it's its innovation industry. So especially in the automotive industry, German excellence is often praised. So some brands that you might know about are Mercedes, Audi, BMW, Volkswagen, and also other brands include Bosch, Siemens, and SAP. Recently, as sustainability is becoming more and more relevant, also the green tech industry is thriving. So Germany actually tries to only get energy from renewable sources. So now you will often see in the German landscape solar panels and also wind turbines. Also, the startup theme is thriving, especially in bigger cities like Berlin and Munich. You will find a lot of startups. And actually, one very important fact about the German economy is, and it's often called our industrial backbone, is called the Mittelstand in German, which are basically small and medium-sized companies that are often highly specialized and world leaders in their regard, and often have very constant revenues. So even during crisis, they are often very important for our economy. Now let's talk a little bit about German sports and music. So as you might know, the most popular sport in Germany is football. Germany has actually won 4 World Cups. Here you can see Mario Götze and Thomas Müller. Mario Götze just scored the winning goal in the FIFA World Cup 2014. Yeah, and we also have a national league, of course, the Bundesliga, which probably the most famous club is Bayern Munich. On top here, you can see the club that I'm rooting for. It's called Borussia Mönchengladbach, and fireworks are often a very important part of our fan culture. Regarding music, we have some very famous musicians that were born in Germany. So Bach, Beethoven, and you can see here, also Brahms and Wagner, they shaped Western classical music. Nowadays, classical music is, of course, not as popular anymore. So pop, rock, techno, and hip-hop also are thriving in Germany. Most notably, Berlin is one of the most important cities for electronic music. Some other cultural things that you might know Germany for is the Oktoberfest and also Carnival. So the Oktoberfest was originally only located in Munich on the Theresienwiesen, and it attracts now around 6 million people annually. And you can see here, this is what people traditionally wear. It's called Trachten, and often stereotype is that German people walk around like this. Definitely not the case. This is only during this very limited time of the Oktoberfest that people wear these kind of clothes. Of course, beer also plays a very important part during the Oktoberfest. So these very big mugs, they hold around 1 liter of beer, and you can see the waitresses carrying a lot of them, so they're very strong. Also, Carnival, which is celebrated in the western and southern parts of Germany, is also very important. This is a celebration where people wear a lot of costumes. You can see that down here. And they celebrate on the streets, and it culminates in 1 week where everyone is outside dressing up. And yeah, one fond childhood memory of mine is that during Carnival, it is very common that people throw sweets to children. So I very much like that as a child. Another important thing about Germany is its nature. So actually 1/3 of Germany is covered in forest, including the legendary Black Forest or Schwarzwald in Germany. And we also have very nice mountains, so the Bavarian Alps, the Harz Mountains, and the Ore Mountains. And nature is also very important for our German culture and identity. So recently, this strong commitment to sustainability and conservation has spiked, but also in our free time, a lot of activities take part in nature. So hiking, cycling, this is very important for our identity. And of course, something that you do not experience here, seasons. The landscape changes dramatically. So this is during winter time. We often have these beautiful landscapes where everything is covered in a big white layer of snow. Now let's talk a little bit about studying in Germany. Some of you might be interested in maybe pursuing a bachelor or PhD in Germany. So Germany is actually the most popular non-English speaking country for international students. So over 325,000 international students are enrolled in German universities. That makes around 11% of all students. Germany is very well known for its world-class research, excellent teaching, and also these strong industry ties. We actually have different types of universities. So the most popular one are the regular universities. They're well known for their focus on theory and research. Then there are universities of applied sciences. They often foster very early on a good practical experience and industry ties. They're often very common for fields like engineering and business. Then we also have these art and music colleges, maybe not as relevant for you, but they specialize in creative disciplines. One very important fact, of course, is cost and funding. So actually, most public universities are completely tuition-free, even for international students. But there is a semester fee, so every half year, from around 250 to 450 euro, which is mandatory. this often covers administration costs and also a semester ticket for bus and trains. So private universities often charge higher tuition fees, and of course, monthly living expenses are also important. They may range from around 600 to 1,200 euro, depending on the city you're living in. So in bigger cities like Berlin or Munich, rent is often a big part of your monthly expenses. For your academic qualifications, you will need a recognized university entrance qualification. In Germany, this is called the Abitur or A-levels, and some universities may require an aptitude test for non-EU students, so we need to check about that. Also for the language proficiency, so for German taught programs, you will need to submit a certificate like the DSH or test DAF, or for English taught programs, you will need to provide certificates like TOEFL or Cambridge. There are a lot of differences. Recently, there was also a financial proof that was employed. So you need to show that you have at least 11,904 euros per year to cover your living costs. And the most reliable method is a bank account. So there are services for that that you can use. Alternatives would be a scholarship certificate or a parental income proof or a sponsor's declaration. Of course, as a non-EU students, you will need a visa before arrival, and after arriving, you will need to register your address and apply for a residence permit. Another important point is in Germany, health insurance is actually mandatory. That means every person who's living in Germany needs to have health insurance, and for non-EU students, they would need German student health insurance, which will cost around 125 euros. I've collected some tips that I will present to you for studying in Germany. So for language and learning, German is definitely not mandatory. We have a lot of English taught programs, especially master's programs, but also some bachelor programs. But I would recommend to learn German anyway. It definitely helps with your daily life and also part-time jobs and making friends. And as a German, I can definitely say everyone will appreciate if you speak some German words. Very important, of course, the financial support and budgeting. So I actually am fortunate to have the DAAD or German Exchange Service scholarship for my internship here. And you can also apply for that when you're conducting research or degree in Germany. This is the go-to source for scholarships. But there are also other foundations like the Heinrich-Böll-Stiftung or Konrad-Adenauer-Stiftung. For accommodations, so Students' Hall will be the most budget-friendly rooms. They will range from around 160 to 300 euros per month. Very important, especially if you plan on studying in a bigger city like Berlin, Munich, Hamburg, you need to apply early. Demand is very high, and you may be put on a waiting list. For the bureaucracy, so also with the visa, you will need to apply early. These processes may take some time, but nowadays, of course, we have a lot of digital tools available and a lot of information you will find online. For some social and cultural tips, so I would recommend to maybe choose a German roommate. This would be a great experience to learn German and German culture, and also to join student clubs. Often universities offer different sport student clubs, but also something like robotics. So this will vary from university to university. Also, some bonus tips would include to get a so-called TV job. In German, this is called Hilfswissenschaftler or research or teaching assistant. This would be a great way to get to know your faculty and also earn some money. Also, if you are interested in sustainability or climate science, renewable energy, recently a lot of new programs have been employed if you're interested in that. Now I will talk about the university that I studied in. This is the Georg August University Göttingen. Here you can see this is our oldest building. It was used as a lecture hall. but now it is more used for administration. And this here is our library during winter, so everything is covered in snow. It's a very big library, holds about 3 million books. And some general facts about the University of Göttingen. So it was founded in 1734 by King George II of Great Britain. So it's almost 300 years old. It has around 30,000 students, including many international scholars, and 515 professors. The University of Göttingen is very well known to be strong in natural science, law, and humanities, and also collaborates with a lot of internationally renowned institutes like the Max Planck Research Institute or the Leibniz Society. Also, 14 Nobel Prize winners conducted their research in Germany. Some very famous ones include Max Born, Werner Heisenberg, Otto Hahn, and most recently Stefan Hell. Here you can see maybe a person that you know. This is Robert Oppenheimer, who famously was part of the Manhattan Project, and actually studied in Göttingen and conducted research there. During that time, Göttingen was very well known to be a center of quantum mechanics. And here you can see Emily Noether. She was actually the first female professor who was at a German university in 1921. Now I will talk about the field of study where I conducted my bachelor thesis in. This is neuroscience. So neuroscience is the scientific study of the nervous system, especially the brain, and how it influences behavior, cognition, and bodily functions. Why is this important? It helps us to understand memory, emotions, decision-making, mental health, and neurological disorders like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's disease. So fields within neuroscience include cognitive neuroscience, neurobiology, neuropsychology, and neurotechnology. Neuroscience is actually a field that is growing. Some of the reasons include advancements in brain imaging and artificial intelligence. You might have heard about neural networks. These are actually modeled after how our brain and synapses work. Also, there's a rising demand for mental health solutions. So I mentioned earlier, urgency in tackling neurological disorders like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's disease. As we get older and older, these diseases get more and more common. Also, there's an increasing investment in neurotech startups and also expanding cross-disciplinary applications. So another thing, maybe not as much related to the research, would be that if we find out about more and more about phenomena like consciousness, this may also have philosophical implications. So now I will talk about my bachelor thesis, part of my bachelor thesis, which was titled The Role of Postsynaptic Density Protein PSD93 for Hunting Behavior in Mice. So first, I will talk about the role of PSD93 and then the experimental method that I chose, the so-called prey capture paradigm. So PSD93 is part of a paralogous network with PSD95. Both of these proteins are important for the maturation of synapses. So during the maturation of synapses, there's something called the critical period. During critical periods, we experience higher plasticity in our brains, and during these phases, experiences and stimuli that we have will have longer-lasting impacts on our brain and are important for shaping brain circuits. So here, this graph will show what PSD93 and PSD95 will do during the visual critical period. So during this phase, vision is critically shaped. So on the x-axis, we have the age, on the y-axis, the plasticity. So the gray graph will show how a wild-type mouse usually will experience a critical period. So it starts here, reaches a high point here in plasticity, and then as the mouse gets older, the critical period will close. So you might have heard about genetic knockout mice. So in genetic knockout mice, one gene is silenced, so the gene will not code for respectively PSD93 or 95 for these proteins, so they're absent. So when you knock out PSD93, as you can see here, the critical period will close faster. So it's a shorter critical period. Where, on the other hand, if you knock out PSD95, the critical period remains open, so higher plasticity, even though the mouse gets older. So in my bachelor thesis, I conducted research with wild-type mice and PSD93 knockout mice. So in comparison to the wild-type mice, the PSD93 knockout mice have a shorter critical period. So now coming to prey capture, which is the method that I used. So it's important to know that mice actually hunt small insects like crickets in their natural environment. So you can see that here, this is my experimental setup. I will put both a mouse and a cricket inside this box, and then with a head-mounted camera, record the behavior, how the mouse is catching the cricket. So the first phase is the so-called handling phase. This is very important, especially for a behavioral experiment, that both the animal and the experimenter get accustomed to each other. Then after 3 days, the food deprivation starts. This is to further the hunting motivation for the mice. And then the second phase, the training phase starts. So during this phase, what I talked about earlier, mouse and cricket will be put into the experimental setup. And first, mice are often very frightened because it's a new environment, but as they get more and more used to it, they will start to hunt the crickets and will become very good and fast at it. So after they reach consistent hunting behavior, the next phase begins, which is the testing phase. This is the phase where we'll acquire the data. So the test phase consists of 2 days. The first day is under binocular conditions, so with both eyes open, and 5 trials will be conducted under light conditions and 5 trials under dark conditions. Then, after the first test day, one eye is sutured and closed, and the second test day will be under monocular conditions, so only with one eye, again, 5 trials under light conditions and 5 trials under dark conditions. Now I will show you a video so you can see what it actually looks like. This is a wild-type mouse under binocular and light conditions hunting a cricket. So you can see this is very fast, and you may ask yourself now, well, how does this video help us to gather data? Now a very important part of my thesis comes into play. It's a software called Deep LabCut. It's a deep learning system that you can train to track the performance both of mice and cricket. So the next video I will show you is the same video, but with tracked by the deep learning system. So you now can see the path that the mice and the cricket traveled. So these coordinates are then saved as Excel spreadsheets, and they can be used for the data analysis. The next video will also be a wild-type mouse under binocular conditions, but now in the dark. And now the same video tracked. So one can see that vision is indeed very important So under dark conditions, the mouse takes significantly longer to catch the cricket. So vision plays an important role in prey catch. So these are some of the graphs that are now created. So here we compare actually under light conditions, both genotypes, so wild type against the knockout mice against each other, and also the eye conditions, so monocular versus binocular. So here, these are the wild type mice, binocular conditions, monocular conditions, and respectively the knockout mice, binocular conditions, and monocular conditions. So each point represents one trial, the bars represent the mean. And on the y-axis, you will see the capture time. So there is a significant difference between binocular and monocular conditions, both for the wild type and the knockout mice. And there's also, interestingly, a genotype difference between wild type mice and knockout mice. This is here, specifically under the monocular conditions. So monocular wild type mice are significantly faster in capturing crickets compared to knockout mice. This graph shows the percentual change in capture time from binocular to monocular. So one can see that the mice get significantly slower and their capture time increases. Here are two-dimensional plots of the distance covered by PSD93 knockout and wild-type mice. On the top row, this is both from the same mouse. This is a wild-type mouse, and under binocular conditions. So this is the starting point of the mouse. This is the starting point of the cricket, and this is their endpoint where the mouse catches the cricket. So wild-type binocular conditions, and this is wild-type monocular conditions. So one can see that binocular vision, so vision with both eyes, is indeed important for accurately capturing prey. Here on the bottom, this is the same, but now with the knockout mouse. So again, the same mouse. This is under binocular conditions. And this here is under monocular conditions, the knockout mouse. And if you compare what I talked about earlier, under monocular conditions, there is a genotype effect. So the knockout mice, which lack PSD93, are significantly longer and travel longer distances under the monocular conditions compared to the wild-type mice. So binocular vision is indeed important for prey capture. This can also be seen in these polar histograms. So they display the azimuth changes under monocular vision, so basically the angle. And here you can see the wild-type mouse under binocular conditions. This is the binocular visual field, and the mouse keeps its prey, the cricket, inside the binocular visual field. And under monocular conditions, you can see that it tilts towards one eye. So they cannot keep the prey inside the binocular visual field. And this, respectively, is the same with knockout mice. So under binocular conditions, keeps it inside the binocular visual field. And under monocular conditions, it tilts. This brings me to my conclusion. So PSD93 plays a critical role in supporting visually guided predatory behavior, in particular under monocular conditions that require precise hunting behavior. And these findings emphasize the importance of synaptic scaffolding proteins like PSD93 in shaping functional visual circuits and possibly other systems. So the use of an ethologically relevant behavioral paradigm provides a valuable framework to assess how specific genetic knockouts impact natural behaviors such as prey catch.